Hello, everyone, and welcome to a very holly jolly Next Dev. My name is Ryan, and I'm joined by my co-host here.
Ho ho ho, Dan Goosewin.
So, obviously, we have our Christmas attire. We've got a Christmas themed show, and we've got a very special guest. But first, when I was making all the changes to the Next Dev website and making it all Christmassy and stuff like that, there was a an Ode Rabbit or something like that, or an Eid Rabbit or something like that was commenting on all the PRs and like making changes. Like, who does this guy think he is? Like this Ode Rabbit. Do you know who this Ode Rabbit is?
Yeah, I think it's a rabbit that sings odes.
Really?
Yeah.
And it like put poems in my PRs. It was like Ryan sucks at making code changes and his linter always fails. And I was like, what is that? What is this?
Yeah, Code Rabbit is a really, really dope tool that does all the code reviews for us. So I suggest you really go check it out.
Yeah, CodeRabbit is the best AI code gen review tool. I use it all the time on all my personal projects. You can check it out today at devlink.run/CodeRabbit. And thank you to CodeRabbit for sponsoring all live Next Devs. Let's bring forward our guest, Michael. He's not interviewing me. There we go. Michael, how you doing?
What's up? Good to see you guys. Happy holidays.
Yeah, see, we got him on the virtual background too, so that way he's holly and jolly as well.
That's
So
right.
we're all in unison here. So Michael, give us the 2-minute like sort of life arc type of thing, just to get anyone who's not familiar with you the quick context caught up, like MIT, Dropbox, Nihilaz, WorkOS. Give us the 2-minute spiel.
Yeah. Okay. So I grew up in a small town in Oregon. It's like small farm town. I started building websites and stuff when I was a kid, like a lot of people, but there's really no technology scene there. It's like a lot of farming. Go to MIT, as a physics student, start building more stuff, start building iPhone apps, drop out of school for about 6 months and work at Dropbox back in like almost 15 years ago. Convinces me I want to do startups, build products, hugely inspirational. A lot of those people at Dropbox had gone to MIT. So I go back to school, switch to CS, graduate, start a company to go try to beat Gmail and Outlook, like build a new email experience. This is before Slack. So I kind of saw the Dropbox playbook. It's like, I'm going to go do that for email.
Right.
And email kind of sucks. There was not a lot of innovation in it. I was like, this is the primary tool people use to communicate and do everything in their life. So raise a bunch of money, hire a bunch of people, build this app that was actually the first Electron app. It was before Electron. It was this thing called Atom's Shell, which was the underlying primitive of the Atom code editor project.
Interesting.
Which was like built on a Chromium fork. So we wanted to build it with web technology. We wanted to build it with JavaScript. This is like pre-TypeScript. It was like using CoffeeScript and some stuff like that.
Oh, wow.
So built this cross-platform JavaScript-based like mail sync engine and UI, system on top of Chromium, but fully styled to feel native. Ship it, open source it, still open source. Get a ton of users. It grows. Everyone loves sharing it. And we got users at all these different companies. And I tried to go sell it to those businesses, just like Dropbox. I tried to go get people to pay for it. And kind of the short version is like they wouldn't pay for it because it wasn't essentially enterprise ready, is what I'd say. It's like it didn't have all the enterprise stuff in it. It didn't have stuff around security and logging and permissions and compliance and all this other encryption, all this other stuff that like these people ask you for. And it's an email product. It's really sensitive data. It's like really,
right.
It doesn't just glide past the desk of the IT security people. They look at it really closely. So we essentially killed the product. We kind of shut it down. Nihilaz pivoted, just kind of sold the API infrastructure. And then about a year and change later, I started this company, WorkOS, essentially to solve that one, not the email specific thing, but all the enterprise stuff. I had seen it kind of come up again and again. And that's what we're doing now. Stuff around enterprise authentication, security, logging, SSO, SCIM. And I've been building this since 2019. We have a gazillion customers, it feels like, including like OpenAI and Anthropic and Cursor and Vercel and, Perplexity and a bunch of other, great AI ones. Yeah. And so it's interesting. We're like part of the AI wave, despite being like a pre-AI company, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, if it's great tech, all tech companies will want to adopt it. But yeah, incredible story, and thank you for looping us all the way to the WorkOS, plus telling us the story of why WorkOS became a thing. You slightly hinted at enterprise readiness being a thing, a challenge you've encountered in the past. But I want to dive a little bit deeper into your roots. Sort of curious, what got you into the technology in the first place? When did you decide that, this is what I want to focus on? This is what I want to commit my life to?
I mean, I had always been very interested in like the internet and how like technology worked, and I was like very interested in like math and geometry and physics when I was growing up, and I just read a ton of books. I think that was like kind of pre-internet, just like read through the whole library, my school. I liked building web stuff. I ran my school's newspaper and built like the initial version of getting that online, my high school newspaper. But I was also in a bunch of other things like, photography. I actually almost went to college for music. I was like studying jazz piano for about 10 years when I was growing up. I was like very, very into that. I decided to go to MIT because it was this combination. I saw the MIT Media Lab, which is this combination of like, science and technology, but also art and design and music. And I ended up doing a bunch of research there and working there. It's kind of this, I remember when I visited, I was like, oh, this is me. This is like the manifestation of like what I feel. Like these have never felt like different parts. People would be like, art and science are like different worlds. And I was like, they're kind of, it feels the same to me. It's like the same, it all comes from the same kind of creative center. But it was really when I got into college, I actually, like I said, I didn't start in the CS program necessarily. I took a bunch of physics classes and I took a bunch of architecture classes. The Media Lab actually doesn't have an undergraduate program, so there's no school there. But I started building stuff, and the iPhone platform had just gotten announced. And so I started building some stuff for that. And I was like, I actually started building all these different mobile apps, a few for fun, but a lot of them for like companies. I started using it to pay the bills. I was like, hey, I can put myself on Craigslist. And it's kind of like everybody in the 90s maybe wanted a website or something. Now everybody wanted a mobile app. This is like in 2000, I don't know, 2009 or something, 2010. And so I did it for a bunch of different companies all over the place, and would just kind of, nights and weekends hack on stuff and teach myself iOS development. It's like pre-Swift. It's like all Objective-C. And then I ended up
the rough days.
Yeah, like very long function method names, and that's what I ended up doing at Dropbox. I was like, working on the mobile team. There were two of us building the iPhone app, and I had met those guys because I had gotten interested in startups. So when I was an undergrad, I was doing the physics thing, but I was like, I don't think I want to go to grad school. I was like, I'm kind of sick of school. It's just too much like bookwork and studying. I want to make stuff. I want to impact the world. I'm kind of ready to like become a member of society, like do stuff. It was pretty antsy. And so I was like, I don't want to go work at a big company, but the startup thing is interesting. I ended up reading a bunch of Paul Graham's essays. I learned about Y Combinator, and that's how I connected to the Dropbox people. It's like Drew had gone through YC, and they'd come back to campus regularly. So that's what sucked me in. And then since then, I remember building stuff and shipping it to people and being like, oh, this feels like making music, or it feels like making things with my hands. It's very similar. And the opportunity to like build a thing that impacts other people's lives is like this high leverage thing you can get in the world. I think probably anybody listening to this, that's an engineer or technologist, like, people talk about impact. I think it's kind of like leverage, like what's the multiplier effect? And if you fast forward that through, you can see kind of why I landed on DevTools. I mean, building, if the email app was good, because the bet there was if we can improve the productivity of like everybody by like 1%, it's this enormous lift on the whole world. That's kind of the leverage bet. For developer tools, it's actually a level even deeper, right? Because if you can build a thing that helps other people build things and unlock creativity that otherwise not been there, you lower the activation energy, and it has this like explosion effect of impact.
Right.
It's like the highest leverage thing you can do is build infrastructure. So as soon as I started feeling that, I was like, okay, that's what I have to do. That's
one of the greatest things about technology, that it's very easy to scale to millions and billions of people, and immediately you start making an impact worldwide, which is very, very gratifying.
Totally. And if you're the infrastructure layer, you are the, your impact is like the union of all of your customers, or whatever down the line. And that's extraordinary. Like Dan and I ran into each other at the reInvent conference where I'm wearing my reInvent hoodie, and think about the impact that product has had on the world. I mean, that platform, it's like, it's like hard to measure. It's like maybe trillions of dollars of value, literally, from it existing. So those are the things I think that are they're the hardest to build, because you have to find abstractions. You have to deliver it in a way that's like better than any single person could deliver, but it is also, the highest impact. To me, it's kind of like the holy grail. If you're a technologist building technology for other technologists, like one of, WorkOS, one of my favorite customers we've had for many years is Vercel. I know G there and their team, and it's like, we're building a platform for another company that's building a platform on top of a company that serves as a platform. It's this like multiplier on top.
Everything's a wrapper.
Totally. Yeah. And I'd say the counterpoint to everything's a wrapper is like, if you can be at the bottom of it, like you're the multiplier,
right
on top of that stuff. Yeah.
Lovely.
Yeah.
So Media Lab, where it all started, Dropbox. Tell us a little bit about Dropbox. What was it like back then? I imagine it's very, very different, and it has gotten through a lot of changes since, what was it, 2010s or something? Yeah.
Like 2011. Yeah. I mean, back then, I feel like the company was like going through puberty. It was like, it was kind of in between the set of the early set of people that had joined to really like build the foundational technology and grow the initial business and get the mechanics of the business right. A lot of those people had worked there for many years. There was this set of like 10 or 15 people that were kind of the core early DNA of the business. A lot of them were like the fraternity brothers of the founders, that were building it. And when I was there, I remember they hired like the first salespeople. It's like big change, and started hiring people to do like the first product manager joined. I'd never even worked with a product manager before. It's this guy that had worked at Google for Marissa Mayer. And so it's through this transition, like when I went back to school, I think Dropbox was like, maybe they went from like 40 to 70 people or something like that in 6 months, or 80 people. It's pretty fast. So it's interesting. WorkOS this year has gone through that growth trajectory, or a little bit.
Really, just this year?
We're about 100 people now. We started the year, I can't remember exactly where, but 60s maybe. So in the last like 2 years, you could say, we kind of went through that trajectory. But yeah, I learned a ton. I mean, I learned how to interview people. I learned just how like software is built. I learned how teams work. I learned like how important culture is. There's so many different things. Actually, when I started my own first company, like a lot of like what I took immediately was like what I, did at Dropbox. And I think this is a pretty common thing, like I was just catching up recently with Zeno Rocha, who's the founder of Resend. And he's a pal of mine because he actually worked at WorkOS. I like met him on Twitter, and then we hired him for a couple of years, and he worked here and did a bunch of awesome work for us. And one of the traditions we have as a company at WorkOS is we do a weekly all hands, and we always take a picture of the whole team. We take a screenshot of like the Zoom gallery view. And we've done this like for years and years and years. We have hundreds of these. And it's just a nice little kind of ritual tradition we have. And they do this at Resend also. He was like, oh, that actually plucked that as a tradition or a cultural bit. So I think one of the things that is impactful, that I got from Dropbox is like cultural things that live on. And I'm delighted that at WorkOS we have sort of a same kind of thing, pay it forward to others.
Because then that 1% you were talking about, like impact, that 1% of impact that you did for like the cultural screenshot has now affected Resend. And then let's say some other person at Resend goes on to found their own company, then that might carry on even further. And it's like this whole sort of cultural thing just would have originated from that original point, which is really interesting.
That's right. It's this like cultural DNA that spreads across startups and tech companies, and kind of it gives you the ability to hire people in from other organizations and actually have kind of, if you like a tribe, you have this like foundational trust, across, You don't have to necessarily live in the same city. That is concentrated for people that do have offices in the Bay Area. But it spreads beyond that. We've hired, for example, at WorkOS, we've hired a lot of people from GitHub. And GitHubbers were like a very specific culture. And early on, we had a few people from GitHub. And so we've embraced that. Like GitHubbers join the company and they feel right at home. The same thing with people we've hired from Stripe or actually Shopify and others. We're kind of like similar-ish DNA. We're building a very different product. We have a very different, thing that we actually produce. But the way that people kind of like make jokes, like what gets them excited, how they think about pushing. We just did our hack week this week and people are building a ton of crazy, awesome stuff. It's kind of similar cultural dynamics. And so it's one of the things I encourage people. A lot of people ask me like, oh, you've started a couple companies and you angel invest. Like, how should I start a startup? I actually tell people until you have the idea that's like so compelling, you can't like not do it. Which it'll come, like the Nihilist, when I started it, it wasn't just like, I want to start a company, let me come up with an idea. I actually almost worked at Asana. I had a job offer. I was like this close to join. I would have made a bunch of money, more money than from Nihilist. Like Asana's done incredibly well. I think they were like 20 or 30 people. And I literally I was talking to Dustin and Justin about it. And I was like, I just can't not do this email thing. I'm just like compelled. I keep waking up thinking about it and it's just going to keep eating at me unless I told them, I was like, I'll work on it for a month and I'll either burn it out of my system and come work at Asana, or I'll just like keep doing it. And after about 3 weeks, I was like, okay, I think I want to actually do this. It's more of an obsession.
So
if you don't have that obsession, just go work in another startup, like get get some reps, like learn some cool stuff and like jump into it when you're really like prepped and ready to go.
Yeah. So let's go back to the Nihilist thing. So you said that you hacked on it for like 3 weeks, but you just have this like nagging sort of like feeling where it's like, what if I could do this? What if I could do this?
Oh no, I've been working on it for a while, for longer.
Oh, really?
I was talking with Drew about email at Dropbox. Drew's also talked about like email being this other like fundamental technology of the internet that you can improve. And later they acquired Mailbox, which is like mobile app. That was a whole thing. So I've been like just kind of obsessed with it. I had sketchbooks full of ideas. I still think about it. It's like my white whale, and so I had actually written my CS capstone thesis project on email and built this whole mail sync system that became the Nihilist code base. Actually,
you're reading off of my show notes already. I was working through those and you hit those 2 points. So I was like, it's been hitting you for a while since, you wrote your undergrad thesis on it. Because obviously, and I've been on the same sort of pain path with email where it's like, this seems like an unfinished product and there's not a lot of dev tools there for it. What was like the original wedge or problem that you wanted to solve with Nihilist? Was it like dev API, client, mailbox, or inbox?
It was the like client experience. It's like the way that people were productive with it. So a lot of it, there was a ton of stuff in it, like message filtering, intelligence in it. One of the features that actually made its way to other products is like if you're in the list view and you're hovering over inline, there's buttons that show up and you can just click archive from within there instead of clicking the checkboxes. That we actually like launched that first. That was our design. I was like, obviously people should copy it. There's a lot of stuff like that in it. But I think the core cool piece to me about how we built it, because we built this on top of Atom Shell. Atom is a code editor, right? It's kind of like Emacs or Vim or VS Code or whatever now. So it's a tool that was built to be extensible. You could build plugins for it. And so by also building on top of Atom Shell, we actually brought the package manager with it, Atom Package Manager. And so for the Nihilist Mail app, Nihilist N1, later called Nihilist Mail, you could actually build extensions written in JavaScript that could inject buttons in and call it to third-party services and change the mail behavior. Imagine if normal engineers were living inside of our code editor and we want to customize it based on the language, the tools we use, right? Whatever we're building, we can change, everything from syntax highlighting to, today it's like MCP servers and, open code or whatever. But for email, for everybody else that are knowledge workers, they're not engineers, they think about communication. The idea was you can create this extensibility around it. And I had always thought that it was kind of nuts that the email client for a salesperson was absolutely identical to the email client for a recruiter and for a project manager and for a designer and for an engineer. Like they are literally identical. You get the exact same thing to everyone. That's crazy. It's like, imagine if, like you forced everyone to use the same tool. It's like, it doesn't make sense in that it should be customizable to your workflow and the systems you're using. And so by building on top of Atom, it was this customizable platform. It's almost like an email client as a platform. That was the idea. Pretty like big brain heady way to build a company. I think ultimately like it's a compelling idea, and a way to think about building product. One of the enormous things I learned building that company was like the headwinds just around building a business. Kind of fell into the classic trap of the product-y engineer guy, building like really great widget, but not really thinking through how to, sell it, monetize it, what the business structure would be. And then this whole thing around enterprise, I had kind of the whole Paul Graham, again, going back to his essays, that make something people want, that YC says. I just believed that. Like I was all in on that. I was like, oh, if I make a thing that people love, that they really want, they'll pay for it, right? And I feel like I figured out that's not true. It's necessary, but it's not sufficient to actually make the business work. And so we needed to not just make something people wanted, but they wanted and was secure, and I could sell it to the IT team, and it could scale and all that. And then on the backside, you're able to capture the revenue of it. Ultimately, like there was too big a gap there for us to succeed. So I still think the product dynamics, if someone wants to go build a extensible mail client, go build it on. Now this mail is still open source. It's still out there. It's a few years old now, so you probably got to rebuild a lot of it. But the challenge is around like sculpting the business around that, making it fully secure, and kind of where the revenue comes from. If I was to do Nihilus again, I probably would have I think it actually would have been more successful to run it as like an open source product, an open source project versus a company.
Yeah.
I'm actually not even sure if it should have been a paid product at all versus like a Thunderbird replacement or something.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I was like the plugins and the extensibility, because like you were saying, it's no one email client is going to work for everybody.
That's right.
And it's like, I don't know if you've seen like the extensibility and like the plugins with like open code, but it's like everyone can kind of just like have their, like I have a local fork running that just has like a bunch of changes that I've added just to make it work for me. And if there's like a way that email experience could be brought to
imagine that for your mailbox. Be awesome.
Yeah, exactly.
Be super cool. So someone should go build that. Call me, I'll invest.
Yeah.
I wish I could build it right now. I'm too busy. WorkOS is just like totally ripping, so I don't have any time to do anything else. But I think actually with the AI stuff right now, there's so much more cool stuff you could do. Like LLMs are all about like, semi-structured or unstructured text processing. What is email? It's all that, it's HTML and like semi-structured stuff. I used to say that email is the database of your life. You can build stuff on top of that. I think there's still an enormous opportunity there, but yeah, the headwinds around the security story. I went and talked to other friends that were going up market at the same time, like people at Slack, which we knew through Adam Shell. They also built on top of that.
Nice.
Later became Electron, renamed Electron. I talked to friends at Asana, that were there. I talked to friends at Dropbox, and I was like, "What's up with this enterprise thing?" All of them were doing it. They were all like, "Oh yeah, it's like a huge barrier to going up market." But what was interesting is email data in particular, I think, was hypersensitive on the security side. So we didn't get any pass. With like a Dropbox or like Figma or something, the IT people can be like, "Okay, use it, but just like don't put anything like really sensitive into it." For email data, it's like, it's immediate.
That's where all your sensitive data is going.
I mean,
just like
look at all the what's that Twitter account that's like the tech emails screenshots, the ones that get that get published in like lawsuits, depositions, and whatever. I love it. You can see emails between like Steve Jobs and like Elon and Sam, and like it's the tea. It's like whatever's going on in the back. That shit comes out because it's an email. So they're rightfully concerned, I think, around the security. But I feel like because of that, I sort of stumbled into this like this truth essentially about software and enterprises, this constraint, this like gap between building the product and selling the product. And this is the count. It's so good. The ones from Zuck are so good. Yeah. It's like you can see into his mind, Yeah.
you could doom scroll on these for days, and it just gives you so much insight to like what's actually like going on inside
I
those
love it.
companies. You're like, whoa, this is awesome.
Yeah, you see how these guys, these folks think.
I
So
want to talk more about the moment when you realized the enterprise thing like is a barrier, and what was the first set of requirements that just smacked you in the face, and you realized, wow, this is really, really tough.
yeah, I mean, it took a while to figure it out. So I would say like now it's like legible. At the time, the effect was like the business just hit the wall. Like we just couldn't really grow the commercial side of the email product. It just yeah, I was just getting like pushed out of these conversations with IT, and I didn't know why. I had never done it before. In many ways, Dropbox, kind of the only place I had worked, didn't do enterprise. They're kind of the quintessential example of a business that didn't go after enterprise. So, it wasn't until later that I kind of pieced together the full picture, and I had looked at who had successfully done this, what had they built. I went and interviewed a bunch of people that were like PMs at Slack and Box and Airtable that had successfully gone up market. And then I went and talked to a bunch of IT admins, and I was like, why do you guys require this stuff? Like, what is single sign-on? Like, why does it matter? Like audit logs. Like they all told me we have to have audit logs. And I'm like, why? And so it wasn't until later. I mean, it was probably like, I ended up leaving Nihilus in like 2017, kind of towards the end of mid-late 2017, after we had made this pivot and shut down the product. And then I was kind of trying to figure out what to do next. And I started doing research. Honestly, I was just initially curious about like, why did kind of my product strategy fail? Because I was frustrated. I felt like we did everything right. Like the design of the thing was, I sometimes tell people, I was obsessed around the visual design. My friend Sebastian DeWitt is incredible visual designer and product designer and a dear friend. And I spent so much time with him, just like obsessing over the icons and animations, like the experience of the product. And even the full end-to-end, flow, like, the new mail notification sound, the sound in Outlook, you can probably hear it. Like if you just think about it, you hear it
terrifying
all the time. Yeah. Whatever bullshit sound. I was like, that sound, if we win, that sound is going to be heard across gazillions of people across the whole world. And I don't want it to be some like bullshit stock sound, some random thing. And so I spent 2 days in a studio with an electronic musician who makes sound for video games and for like essentially techno, with all these like crazy tools and plugins and audio effects that they have. I spent 2 days in the studio just trying to come up with that sound. The sound of the new mail notification, and then the whoosh sound of it sending. We kind of did this like stereo whoosh thing. And so think about that level of experience. I had gone that deep around the product, and then the thing didn't fucking work, at the end of the day. I was like so frustrated. And so I spent all this time after leaving, like trying to, kind of walk back over my steps and be like, where was the gap? Or like, what did I miss? Or what did I do wrong? And there's a lot of things you do wrong or things miss as a, sometimes you hire the wrong people. Sometimes you raise from the wrong investors. Sometimes you make missteps around the business or whatever. But I saw this like gap. I was like, if we had actually been able to sell it to enterprise, like we had all the momentum, we had all the PLG thing, we had the mind share. If we could have captured the revenue, like growth, this is the thing, like revenue growth and growth for companies, it forgives all sins. Like that. My new definition of product market fit these days actually is when you have product market fit, you can continue to make otherwise like totally boneheaded, potentially lethal mistakes and continue to survive. And not just survive, thrive. You continue to grow. You're like, you get like, it's like the Mario star, and you can just run through walls and no one can touch you. That's PMF. And it's needed in order to actually break through all the constraints in the market and all the constraints of the business. And so I had felt like we had gotten product market fit, but the reality is we had gotten kind of user market fit. But from the commercial side, it was this huge gap. Like that's why I started this other business. Like WorkOS is not necessarily like kind of a fun thing to build in the kind of intellectual creative sense. I mean, a lot of it is integrating with legacy IT systems and plugging into, proprietary, like, like old 4-letter protocols and stuff. But I just couldn't stop thinking about this. I was like, this is going to be a major limiter in the world. Like, there's going to be so many other founders like me that are just going to get stuck on this. And I have to fix it. I have to make it happen.
Have you seen like the stuff from like Cursor and Claude Code where they're like pushing updates and it just like completely breaks the interface, but it's like people are still like loving Cursor and Claude Code and all that other stuff. I was like, I feel like that's a perfect example of what you just said about PMF, where it's like you could literally ship like a application company level breaking change and people are still like, it's okay. This is AI. It's a finicky space, but we're still going to subscribe to you. I think that's really interesting because it's so true. It's like you could literally do anything you want and people will still be like, hey, yeah, this is perfect.
Yeah. I mean, you get a lot of passes, for stuff early. And I think the best example of this to me actually is like ChatGPT. Like if you go back and look at ChatGPT as a product, as an app, like clearly no one realized it could be this big. I mean, the name is kind of terrible, like it's clearly like a random kind of engineering.
They were never good at naming.
Never good at naming. The way it was built initially is kind of hacky. It's like it's getting better, so much faster. Like props to that team is incredible. Like they're a customer of ours, so you get to work with them. But it's also like, it's been buggy. It's had issues. It breaks in different ways. It's like inconsistent. But it's so good in terms of the core experience that everybody overlooks that. They're like, I just keep coming back, like it's kind of like if there's a restaurant where you're like, this place has like the absolute best pizza I've ever had in the world, but they serve it on paper plates and, and it's slow. You're like, but I'm going to keep coming back if the food is good, if
right.
If the core essence of it is amazing, you'll just keep coming back to it. Now, like if the pizza restaurant has rats, you might not come back, if there's a thing. And I think that's like, when it comes to like security or uptime or like reliability, that can be an issue. Like for us, for WorkOS, like we have, I consider like strong product market fit. We're powering all these AI businesses. I mean, I mentioned a bunch of them. There's like hundreds and hundreds more this year. But if we go down, or we have security issue or something like that, we're toast, And so I think there's things like that for every business where, you can get the Mario star and the product market fit accelerates you, but there can be these things that if you don't see them, they can kind of compromise the core integrity of your product and business. And as like a founder, if you're the CEO or product strategist, like your job is to constantly kind of stay ahead of that and just know what those could be, like just being aware of them. And I think like going back to ChatGPT, like that's a great credit to like they've mitigated all those things and grown and scaled. And that's the reason why it's the last count is it has like 800 million weekly active users.
Yeah, insane numbers. Insane.
Crazy, incredible. Yeah.
I'm talking of founder advice. I'm really curious. We have a whole bunch of questions on that topic. You stepped aside from Nihilus 2017. That's a rare founder move. How did you make peace with it? Like it was turning away from your own child, that's how it feels, right?
Yeah, I mean, in some ways, when we killed Nihilus Mail as a product direction for the company, for me, we kind of killed the company. That for me was like, the goal of the company was to change the way that people communicate and build this like broad productivity impact in the whole world. That was like the reason I was doing that instead of, working at Google and kite surfing all day or something, like there's like, that's the thing that I was hungry about. And we ended up, pivoting it, just kind of selling the underlying MailSync infrastructure, which is still around. It's not Nihilus as a business today. It's like connects to the Gmail API and a bunch of others, but it was really used for building like kind of spamming products. I hate to say, this is being recorded, but like there's a lot of sales and marketing things that were built on it. Yeah. And it felt icky to me. I was like, that's not, I like helping developers, but I just can't, I don't know. I just can't get excited about that. I just can't. And if you're like the founder and you can't get excited about the thing, you got to leave. It's like, you can't, and there were other people, to their credit, that were excited about that they thought that was a business that they would be thrilled to build. And for them to have the opportunity to keep growing the company, is much better than shutting it down or selling it for them too. So I'm glad they were able to do that, but it wasn't for me. And I feel like we had lost there was this really special time in the moment of the company when we were building the mail app where I could talk about, in a way too, because we have it now at WorkOS. I thought I'd never be able to get it back, but we have it again here, where it's like an engineering team that's like driving forward product with very small teams. That's like rapidly shipping new stuff. It's the best. It's like the best feeling in the world. I think it's the best feeling in the world. It's like making music or something. And people are in this sort of like even flow state. They're not working crazy hours, but they're just like fully like embodying like ownership and creativity and expression in it.
Like they're passionate about it too.
Yeah. And they're like really curious and they're like solving these like complicated things and talking to users. And it's fucking awesome. We had that for a while at Nihilist when we were building the mail app. And then as this thing happened around, like we were struggling to commercialize it and grow it, and like kind of writing was on the wall, and we're like running out of money, and we're like, oh shit, we lost it, and that was a huge. I still think really fondly about the people I had that experience working with on that product. I still, it's really hard to like have had such a great, wonderful working experience in that way, and then such a frustrating outcome.
Yeah, that's an essential piece of advice for founders. Your heart has to be in, because startups are so hard. Otherwise, you won't have the passion to just keep going.
And the person leading has to be all in that way. That it only works if you're all in that way. And if you're not, you either need to change the thing that the company is doing to be a thing that you're all in on, or like go do something else and give that to someone else to keep growing and driving, which is fine too. But that startups, it only works if you're all in. That's the thing, because you're going up against other people that are all in. And so if you think you can hedge or you can like, participate or something versus like, making it everything, it just doesn't work. Like the game, you cannot play the game that way. You'll get beat, and it won't be fun. Because if you're all in, you have this like emotional connection to the work, which can make the downs harder. But also it means the ups are higher. You like really connect to it. You feel really good. Like hiring people, it's like the best feeling in the world when you like close an amazing candidate to join the team. It's the best feeling in the world. It's like building your tribe. I feel like if you're not all in, you don't get that feeling. It just feels like a little boost or something. It's like, okay, great, I got my paycheck. And startups are so hard that you need to have the highs to balance it out. To balance out the lows. Yeah.
Awesome. So you're out of Nihilist. You took a little break to figure out what's the next big thing. Tell us about this time, your ideation stage. What was the process? How did you come up with WorkOS?
Yeah, I tried to be like pretty methodical about it. So, but also I was like pretty burned out. Like, I'd gone straight into it from my undergrad, and like MIT was no cakewalk for me. So I was like pretty tired. I traveled for a little bit. I remember I spent like a couple months in Thailand, which is great. Thailand's awesome. It's like doing like Muay Thai in the jungle and like eating, like curry. It's like pretty awesome. I kind of call it my like entrepreneur, like eat, pray, love, kind of thing. It's like getting punched in the face by these mostly Dutch guys over there. I took a while off though. I was like, I want to let my brain settle and kind of like fill it with new ideas. I don't want to do this email thing again. And so I was actually living in New York for a while. I traveled a bunch. I went to a ton of conferences. I decided to go. I was really interested in aviation. I still am, kind of, the kid I wanted to be an astronaut. So I went and saw all the space shuttles that are remaining at different museums. I went and saw a rocket launch. I saw the Falcon Heavy first launch where they landed the two boosters at the same time. Super cool. If you've never been to a rocket launch, it is super cool. It's like hard to put into words, like how
you feel it. You don't just see it.
You feel it. Even though it's like far away, and it's this like roar of a machine.
One of my buddies lives next to Kennedy because I'm in Florida, and I'll go stay with them, and they're so close. They have an app, which is another funny product market thing. They have an app that will send you a notification when a rocket launch is about to go off. So that way you can just be aware of it, because it will shake the house and you will feel like you're in an earthquake or something like that. But just watching it and like feeling it and watching it is an amazing feeling. It's just like, wow.
The brightness of the flame too, even when it's far away, is like, it's like looking at the sun a little bit, and you know it's man-made, and it's just this like the other thing I saw during that time, I think it was in 2017. I went and saw an eclipse, like a full totality.
Nice.
And that was also like spooky, cool. You experience it, and it just kind of, your brain like starts freaking out in weird ways. You can tell like why it's a spiritual thing. Anyway, I think same experience like watching the rocket launch as I did like seeing the eclipse, where I was like, this is like, you know, Prometheus harnessing fire from the gods, you know, or something. It's like that kind of feeling of it. And so I did all this stuff to just kind of, I was like, I want to inspire myself, and like just kind of, I read a bunch of books and went a bunch of museums and conferences and talked to people. I actually started doing some like side projects work. I had a ton of ideas. I had this notebook somewhere in my desk shelves, but I would carry it around. It was like, would fit in the back pocket, just like a notebook. I think my mom had given me like a stationary notebook for Christmas or something. And it was small. It had about maybe 50, 60 pages in it. And I just took like one page per like idea when there was actually like kind of a thing that was coming. And I would just write it at the top of the page and put a couple bullet points on it, and then just carry it with me. And then as the ideas kind of kept coming back, you know, it almost felt like writing a song, where like the melody that like you just kind of keep humming to yourself, that comes back, that feels good in your head or your mouth as you're singing it. Those are the ones that stick. And so anytime the idea kept sticking, I would just like open back up to that page and write another couple bullet points around, you know, the idea or refining it. And so I had a ton of ideas, and I wasn't constraining it to ones that would just be good like companies. I was like, just what's interesting stuff to work on. Like at the time, you know, 2017, 2018, this is like 2018, there was like a lot of stuff around YouTube radicalizing people with ISIS, if you remember. People would go down this like recommendations algorithm that would like, you just continue to watch like YouTube, like next videos, you would like turn into a terrorist.
Stuff?
Yeah. There was like the Boston Marathon bombing that happened. It's a huge tragedy. And so I had this idea of building like anti-radicalization technology. I was like, how can I build something that actually does the opposite, where it takes people that are like have a propensity to be radicalized and actually tries to balance them out. I'd grown up in a small town with like limited media exposure, and so I'd seen people like radicalized to, you know, political ideology. But anyway, so I was like, I don't know if that could be a company, but it'd be like a cool thing to work on. I think it'd be good for the world, you know. Like less radicalization is probably better for like society and humanity. So anyway, I have a bunch of ideas. I want to build an electric airplane, you know, I have a bunch of other things. But this fucking thing about nihilism, like the nihilist male thing, I just kept coming back to. And when I started thinking about a new company, I also put this constraint on it that I wanted it to be a huge market. I was like, one of the things I'd felt about the email sync, you know, underlying sync stuff that eventually had pivoted into, it's like a small TAM. You know, ultimate, you know, you could still do tens of millions of revenue, but like not hundreds of billions, like small TAM. And you can't engineer your way out of a small TAM. No, full stop. You're stuck. It's like this maximum ceiling that you can get to. And so I was like, okay, if I'm going to do another startup and work this hard, it's got to be a huge TAM, like enormous, so big I will never run out of TAM. I want to do something, I think, building for developers, because I like that and that sounds fun. And I'd you know, been very inspired by the Stripe guys. I'd known Patrick a little bit when I was in college, and kept track of them, met up with them once in a while. So I was like, I want to do like a giant TAM, something kind of like Stripe, maybe for developers. And the market I found was like IT. I was like, there hasn't been a Stripe-like moment in the IT space. It felt like there hadn't been like before Stripe, like fintech was pretty boring and like kind of like
the barrier to entry was like, much bigger before Stripe came along.
Super high, just like it was like no Robinhood. It was like not sexy to go work on, no Coinbase. So I was like, what's a market that feels like that right now? Just kind of has that vibe. And I was like, IT, I don't even know what IT means. It's like, but it's this huge thing. If you go like say, what's the IT market? It's like trillions of whatever dollars or something. So it's like huge market, hasn't had a Stripe moment. I want to build for developers. So I want to build like a IT thing for developers. And I had this like nihilist experience around somehow like enterprise stuff needed for developers. And the first version of the thing I built was actually a little bit more similar to Rippling, where I was going to build a thing for IT people to do automation. There's a lot of products today for like IT governance or like permissions or approval flows or things. You sell to the IT admin and it lets them kind of downstream apply it to their employees.
Right.
But what I realized was like, to do that, you would have to sell it to IT guys. You'd have to go sell it to CIOs and CSOs and, you know, the security people. And I was like, I want to go sell to developers. I want to sell to people building stuff. One of the things around a startup is you will spend a lot of time with your customers. Like most of your time should be spent like talking to customers. And so you better like your customers. And IT people are fine, but I love developers. I love people building stuff, entrepreneurs, like other founders. And so part of this was like, also, how can I concoct my life so I get to spend a ton of time hanging out with people building cool shit that are like developers and founders and makers. And so I just like intersected these things. I was like the IT thing, building for developers, Stripe-like business, you know, and this experience I had at Nihilus around the enterprise gap, and I could put it, you line it all up and you're like, okay, it's the API for enterprise ready for developers. And like, that's literally the thing I wrote down 7 years ago. I remember it was like October, November, December, I started hacking on it. I raised the seed round in January of 2019 for the company with a slide deck. And it's like literally the exact same thing. I was like, we just haven't changed the business since then. So that's just like my path I went through to intersect those things together. It's entirely based on like my own personal experience. I don't know if it's like repeatable for others, but I think the reason why there's like durability in it is because I started from the problems that I was having in my life, you know, things I had seen, my own desires. And that's made me like, I've never wanted to go do anything now other than building for developers. I'm not like, I don't want to pivot. I just want to keep solving that problem.
And it makes a lot of sense because companies are built by
it's
humans.
super fun.
Yeah. So you had to like build out of your personal experience.
Yeah.
You faced yourself.
Yeah, more important than product market fit actually is founder market fit. People talk about this some, and VCs kind of mention it, but I actually think it's more important than people realize. But then founders themselves realize, like, you not only need to find a company that is a good business that should exist in the world out there, but it's a good business for you, like your psyche, what's going to make you happy, the type of people you want to spend time around. It's like you need to like know thyself before you can like do a thing in a way. Otherwise, you'll just, your life will suck. You'll be spending all this time around people you don't want to be around. You'll hate it, and it's hard enough already. You have to, you know, there has to be some like connection to it. And so that's another reason why I think it's hard. It's hard to do. I mean, for the email company, I love the product and I wanted to change that. Like I love the thing, but for this one, it's like, you know, it kind of made it personal in this other way. And I think that's what weathers you and keeps you going. You know, it's what helps you stay.
It's something that makes you get up in the morning and just hit it harder, even every single day, rather than like hitting that inflection point like before with Nihilus, where you're like, yeah, this worked, but now I feel like stagnant in a way. But if you can wake up every morning and just be like, wow, I can't wait to work on this.
Yeah, like there was this moment like early-ish on when we were growing, you know, we're at like a couple million in revenue or something like that. It's like working, but it wasn't explosively growing, and it had been a few years. And I remember like a friend of mine talking to me, being like, are you still like going to keep doing this? You know, kind of like, it's like, it's working okay, but like you could do so many other things, you know, or like these other companies. It's like crypto was blowing up. And I was like, I feel like I'm not done yet. I'm like, I just gotta, I don't know, maybe I'm like a little compulsive, but I was like, I'm just kind of a finisher. I'm like, I gotta keep going. I'm like, you know, it's not gonna be satisfying to me to like stop now. I'm just gonna like be a little, it's like, it's good if you call it relentless. On the other side, it's like unhealthy if it's obsession and it doesn't work. And it's something in between, or both. Yeah. So when I hang out with other, you know, founders that have built companies for many years, I kind of feel like we all have the same mental disorder a little bit. Like there's some like undiagnosed like thing that we're all fucked up in the same way, or like as a child we were all like messed up a little bit somehow, but it's undiagnosed and undiscussed because it results in us all succeeding like in the world.
Nobody wants to solve it because they're like, every time we try to solve it, there's a dramatic decrease in the amount of success.
I mean, this was the thing someone was saying about those guys that go, you know, they go to like Mexico and go do some like ayahuasca spiritual journey, and like they come back and they're like, you know, namaste, I never want to like work again. You kind of you put out the fire, you know, you're like smooth out the chip on the shoulder. I don't know if that would happen to me. I don't know. feel like pretty obsessive just as it is in other areas of my life too. But I think you have to have that. And so when people are like thinking about starting companies, I'm almost always just like, life is long. Just like wait till you get that thing. Wait till it bubbles up to the point where it's like, it's going to hurt you not to do it, and then channel that energy into the thing. And then if you do that, you're like unstoppable, you know. But if you do it before that, yeah.
I think too, before the AI was like mainstream introduced, the biggest bottleneck for like those ideas and sort of like blockers per se was other people. But now this, like the new age, I'll say it, is moving so fast that it's like if you don't go on Twitter or like read the news for like a day or two, you're centuries behind. 3 new AI models have been released, 4 new companies acquired. It's just like there's so much movement happening in like this business enterprise and like startup space. It's just insane. You can never really get bored of it because there's always something new happening.
Yeah, I think there's like not a lot of preparation you need to do now for startups. I mean, I kind of told my story around this like transition I'd gone through, and you know, in hindsight, like it becomes really legible, like the dots connect, you know, and you can kind of tie a nice bow on a story. But when you're in it, it's like not that legible, you know, and it's emotional and frustrating. And most things that people do, I think, to try to prepare for startups, like actually try to prepare, with the exception of like working at a startup, which is essentially like starting a startup, you know. Everything else, it's like preparation. Like I'll go to business school, or I'll like read a bunch of stuff, or I'll like think about ideas. They're actually like fake simulations of what you imagine the startup world would be, but it's not actually doing the thing. It's not actually helpful preparation.
Right.
I think it's more like cosplaying the thing, you know, versus doing the actual thing. A couple of years ago, I was like looking at hiking the PCT, which now I don't have any time to do, but I was like, oh, could I do it? Could I like take a few months off and go hike the Pacific Crest Trail, you know, which goes from the Mexican border in the United States all the way to the Canadian border. It's this like giant trail. It goes through the Sierra and the Cascades. And it takes several months. And so I was asking people about training for it. I was like, do you train for the PCT? And several people who had done it, they're like, absolutely not. And I was like, what? Like, it's like hundreds, thousands of miles. Like, you don't train for it? And they're like, nope. Because the important thing is just starting.
Right.
Within 2 or 3 weeks, your body will be like,
I guess we're doing this now.
Yeah, totally. It's just like, don't waste the time. Just go do it. You know, maybe you'll be a little bit sore in the first couple of weeks, but like, you know, it's not a single moment. Like training is useful when there's like a long period of preparation for a small moment of execution, like an Olympic race, like a 100-meter dash. You know, you train for 4 years, 10 years, and just go do that one sprint. Startups are the opposite. It's totally the opposite. It's if you succeed, it's this long period of time you do the thing. You know, like being a serial entrepreneur in many ways, it's a failure.
Yep.
You want to have one company and have it work. And so that the preparation step in the grand scheme of things is actually distraction versus something that's helpful. Now you want to pick the right place to work, you know, the right problem space, the right way to operate. Like you can learn a lot of stuff about how businesses work. Like if you've never had a job ever before, like it might be useful to like know how people work just generally. Like
those 13-year-olds starting their found ups.
Yeah. Like
their startups.
you know,
maybe
you should have had a boss once, just even for a little internships, you know, just for a little while, even just to know what it's like to be a boss. I don't know. So you're not like running the live experiment. You're not running the experiment on live humans constantly as you're learning. Like you burn through people for your own learning.
Right.
But the idea of like spending a long time preparing, the problem is the market diverges and your perfect plans fall out of favor, and you're always making decisions with imperfect information. And so at some degree, if you can have like some amount of just personal life experience and maturation to help with that and build some skills, you can actually build stuff fast. A lot of people don't know what excellence looks like. So finding a place where you can learn what excellence is in terms of speed or, culture or whatever. But then once you have that, just go, you know, like find the thing you're passionate about and just
go and do the thing.
Just do the
goddamn thing.
That's do the thing, you know. And it's like the same is true with athletics. It's like remember I joined the rowing team when I was in college. I'd never rowed in the rowing boat before, but I got there to Cambridge, and they're all in the river. It's beautiful. It's awesome. I was like, I want to go do that. The first day they go put us in the boat with the oars. And I was like, I've never done this before. I've never been, shouldn't we get on the rowing machines? Shouldn't we do a bunch of stuff? They're like, nope. The best way to learn how to row, get in the boat and start rowing. And it was like a disaster for a while. It was pretty bad, or like looked like a mess, but it's language immersion. It's the same thing, right? It's the more you can do the actual thing, that's the fastest way to learn it. And the same is true with startups. So I always kind of go back to that Nike thing. It's like, just do it. It's like,
just do it. Just do it.
Yeah. If I was to amend it, it would be we say this internally as JEDI is the acronym. Just effing do it.
Yeah.
JEDI. Yeah.
I love this. Anyway, we're approaching the end of the hour, so we're going to start wrapping up. Before we go to the wrap-up questions, we have a few questions from the community. First of all, what is your personal opinion of Better Auth?
Oh, Better Auth? It's good. I mean, open source stuff, there's a ton of open source stuff that's out there in authentication. Like, I had this comment on Hacker News earlier this year. I think I found like 40 of them. Better Auth is certainly better than NextAuth, which was the previous open source auth thing that was out there, which was like riddled with like security issues and performance things. And so I think it's aptly named, Better Auth. Certainly better. Low bar, but better. But what's interesting is we haven't really seen it be like competitive with our business today. Like I don't know what the Better Auth business model is, but I think there's a reason why people are coming to us still, like these bigger enterprise companies, to drive forward this stuff. So I love open source and love the ecosystem, and I'm excited to watch where they keep taking the project.
Wow,
I think going back to the Nihilist stuff, like, Better Auth better find a business model. Otherwise, they might have an outcome kind of like Nihilist Mail did.
Right.
That would be my advice to them. Let's figure that out.
Beautiful.
As an entrepreneur.
Yeah. That makes sense. So then we've got what impact will the AI bubble have? I mean, you've kind of already talked about this a little bit, but like kind of maybe dive into like the MCP stuff just a little bit. Where MCP and all these AI connectors are now requiring auth, and the early days of MCP auth was just it's bad. It was
better
so
now.
Bad. It's better now. Yeah,
better MCP auth stuff is much better. Yeah, MCP auth for us it's an experiment. We're not charging for it. It's like I'm just trying to help the community and be part of that, help it accelerate. I told our team, I think I tweeted this week. We are now an AI infrastructure company. Like by revenue, we are. Did not start the business in that way, but we find ourselves in that way. So I think the result will be if AI continues to accelerate, we will continue to accelerate. That's the pretty exciting thing. We're building more things for AI companies. We have all these products around. We just launched this thing called Pipes, which is an integrations product. If you're building an app that has to integrate with a ton of stuff like Google Docs and GitHub and, Snowflake and Slack or whatever, we can integrate everything together. So I'm more excited about like the AI concentration wave than I am like concerned about it. If the music stops, the identity login, whatever auth market has been around for a super long time.
Yeah,
it even predates Auth0. Go back to like sale point. That's not going away. So I think the bigger concern is just like how big could AI be, and let's like, as a whole ecosystem, let's get after it and see.
Yeah, you're in a pretty good position in that regard. The last question we have is, what was it like to go through a transition from a small company startup to what you guys are now? How was the scale, and what did it feel like?
Right now, like we're less than 100 people still, and so we're kind of like big small. Like, we kind of still know everyone. I can kind of still keep tabs on everything that's happening ish. I think we're kind of below Dunbar's number still. And so I think in the next year is going to be the transition that's harder, is to figure that out. We have an incredible team. I mean, in the cultural principles that we have, I think one of the reasons why is WorkOS is not a new company. We've gone through many, many years of like refining the core culture. It just takes time. And so it's been, in many ways, it's been a wonderful transition. Like now we're just able to do more and move faster. And like I've had more fun and been more excited about the business this year than probably in the entire history of the company combined.
Interesting.
It's so much better and so much more exciting. Yeah. I think next year is maybe even going to ratchet that up even further. Yeah, I'm absolutely. I feel so grateful. It's like it's totally it was a bullseye to hit the enterprise ready thing for like SaaS startups. Like kind of pre-AI, we did a bunch of that stuff. We got lucky in that. We're now like infrastructure powering the AI wave. It's like everybody buys stuff from us and like NVIDIA. Like we're the only other shared vendor across these systems. Like it's pretty wild. I feel like I just hit a second bullseye somehow. And I don't think I can take credit for it. It's luck, but I'm here for it and just feel really grateful. I feel like it's an extraordinary opportunity. Probably the biggest, like jackpot of my career. And I get to do it with a bunch of people that are really smart and really fun to work with and work really hard and are driven. It's like the best job in the world. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That's awesome. So we are at the top of the next hour. So we're going to go ahead and head to wrap up. It has been a pleasure having you on, but for everyone who is not done with you yet and wants to continue seeing your work and all that other stuff, where can they follow you, find you, and learn more about you?
Yeah, the best place to find me is you can just DM me on X, the everything app. That's like the easiest way. You can email me too. My LinkedIn is a mess. Don't LinkedIn me. Just find me on X. You can tag me on stuff or tweet. I'm pretty active there. And I love chatting with developers. I love seeing what people are building. People send me demo videos. They send me projects they're working on. I love it. So please reach out.
Right on. Awesome. Thank you so much for taking the time to join. And thank you to everyone who tuned in and listened to this very insightful episode. We wish you happy holidays and we'll see you next time.
Peace out.